Before there was such a thing as Star Wars, Star Trek, or even the Avengers, there was a little show called Doctor Who. Ever since 1963, the Doctor has been enchanting audiences with his time-traveling adventures in the TARDIS. After over 50 years of adventuring, he's racked up quite a few epic missions. Whether he's protecting historical figures, fighting evil monsters, or saving the galaxy, the Doctor is pretty much always busy. That being said, after so many adventures, at some point you have to ask, which one's the best? While there are plenty of epic episodes of the show, let's narrow our focus to the specific missions the Doctor has planned out. Then we can know once and for all where the best missions of the Doctor rank. So let's jump into the TARDIS and ride through the Doctor's timeline together.
To my box.
Your box.
Most of the time when the Doctor and his companions meet a famous historical figure, you know you're in for a fun romp. Of course, things don't exactly work that way for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. The Chibnall era of the show takes a less fantastical view of history. We're confronted with some of the painful aspects of our regrettable past. That's why the episode of Whittaker's first season, ROSA, is so especially powerful. The Doctor and her friends don't exactly have a fun episode where our heroes meet Rosa Parks and get to fight aliens with her. Instead, they have the painful job of making sure that her famous bus ride goes exactly as planned. You see, there's a time traveler who wants to disrupt Rosa Parks' place in history. It's never really specified why, he's just kind of a time-traveling jerk, basically. The most difficult part of this occurs when the gang has to sit in silence as Rosa is forced to endure humiliation. We've seen the Doctor do quite a lot to save the day. Watching her have to face the fact that she can't save anyone this time to preserve history is pretty hard to watch. The only problem is that the entire mission revolves around Graham, Yaz, and Ryan knowing intricate details about the event. Maybe British people just love painful stories about American history. They still haven't gotten over that Tea Party thing, have they? The Capaldi era of Doctor Who took a very cinematic turn in its first season. One of the best episodes in his freshman year was his Time Heist episode, and that's years before the Avengers pulled off their time heist in Endgame. That's right, Doctor Who did it first, Kevin Feige. The Doctor, Clara, and a plethora of interesting guest stars wake up with no memory of where they are. Then they're instructed to play out an intricately planned heist devised by a mysterious benefactor. It turns out that their memories were wiped because the bank they're robbing has a psychic alien guard. The planet is also struck by a solar storm as they're trying to get into the vault. Of course, this was all part of the plan. Apparently, the Doctor was hired by the bank's regretful director in the future to save the alien guard and his mate in the past. So the Doc brought the crew together and erased all of their memories so that they wouldn't give up the plan. What makes this mission all the better is that it's the perfect companion to Rick and Morty's heist parody episode. Both feature a sci-fi crew coming together with a mean-spirited older scientist to perform a ridiculously convoluted plan. It's pretty much impossible to watch one without thinking of the other. The Doctor Who Christmas specials are a bit of a mixed bag. While some of them are delightful or important, some feature things like killer Christmas trees or evil snowmen. Then there's A Christmas Carol, which isn't just a great special, but one of the best Matt Smith episodes, period. You see, Amy and Rory's honeymoon space cruise is crashing into a planet, and the only person who can save them refuses to. He's also played by Albus Dumbledore himself, Michael Gambon. The only way the Doctor can save his friends is to travel through the grumpy old man's timeline to change his heart. That's right, the Doctor takes one right out of Dickens's playbook and shows the younger version of Kazran what his future could be. He succeeds in saving both Kazran's soul and his friends' lives. Not only that, but the whole thing ends with the gang singing the ship to safety with the help of flying sharks. You just can't get that kind of thing anywhere but Doctor Who. The Doctor has gone up against quite a few villains in his day. The Daleks, the Cybermen, the Master, and the Weeping Angels are just a few of his most fearsome enemies. Then there's the episode where the Doctor may have very well gone up against the devil himself. Well, an ancient alien who may have been the basis for the devil, but, you know. The story starts off in a pretty difficult predicament and only gets worse from there. The Doctor and Rose are stranded on a space station outside of a black hole. Within a few minutes of being there, they lose the TARDIS and find themselves stranded. Slowly, the ancient evil starts manipulating the crew of the station and their Ood servants. Eventually, the Doctor confronts Devilman himself and ends up sucking them all into the black hole. Luckily, the Doc finds his TARDIS just in time and saves everybody from the black hole. Well, except for the poor Ood. What's really freaky about this episode is how little they try to explain what this monster was. Normally, they'd go out of their way to explicitly explain what kind of alien it was they were up against. So the Doctor may have gone up against the ultimate evil after all, with no TARDIS or resources. And won! Perhaps no Doctor Who episode starts with quite a bang like the 5th season opening two-parter. The Doctor's blasted away by an astronaut in front of his companions. Then suddenly they meet up with a younger version of the Doctor and, along with River Song, are sent to 1960s America. There, they discover a creepy group of aliens known as the Silents who've apparently been manipulating the world for centuries. You see, as soon as you look away from the well-dressed monsters, you forget they exist. So it provides quite the challenge for our heroes to lead a revolution against such a nefarious enemy. At least they have the sci-fi lucky penny actor Mark Sheppard along for the ride. The guy's been in Supernatural, Battlestar Galactica, The X-Files, Firefly, Voyager 24, Warehouse 13, and Doom Patrol, so at least they have a seasoned veteran on their side. The plan they devise is brilliant as well. The Doctor hijacks the broadcast of the original moon landing and tells every human on Earth to turn on the silence. He knows that mankind will always watch the broadcast again and again, so there's no hope of the silence coming back. That doesn't exactly address the centuries of secret oppression by the Silents. If you think about it, any episode of the series before the 1960s probably has the Silents in it without them knowing. That's still pretty creepy. So let's stop the TARDIS really quick and pause everything. If you like this kind of Doctor Who content, please do us a favor and hit like and subscribe. And if you're on mobile, be sure to turn on the notifications as well. Alright, let's fire this TARDIS back up and keep it moving! The Doctor finds himself in quite a few predicaments over several lifetimes as a time-traveling hero. Perhaps none takes the same amount of time to get out of, like that one time he was trapped in a castle for a few hundred years. He wakes to find himself being hunted by an unknown adversary. After exploring the castle, he finds his TARDIS encased in diamonds. The Doctor desperately punches at the hard surface before he is attacked by the monster. Then he destroys his own body and reforms himself exactly as he was at the start of the episode. Turns out that he'd been doing this for years and is forced to continue for many more in a cycle. Eventually, the thousands of Doctors manage to punch all the way through the diamond and escape at last. The Doctor then finds himself outside of a confession dial on his long-lost home of Gallifrey. It's quite the reward for someone who's basically been living the plot of Groundhog Day for an insane amount of time. The 5th Doctor is not known for being the most intense of his incarnations. The man wore a piece of celery on his jacket. How much of a bad boy could he have been? That's why it's so impressive that one of the show's most famously stressful episodes was the 5th Doctor's last outing. The Caves of Androzani starts with a pretty insane premise. The Doctor and his companion Perry accidentally step in some cave gunk and are unknowingly poisoned. So the two have to navigate the complicated world of Androzani, face off with the evil Morgus, and find a cure before they perish. That's quite a lot of pressure on a fatally poisoned Time Lord. Eventually, they find a cure, but only enough for one of them. The Doctor gives it to Perry, of course, and regenerates into Colin Baker's 6th Doctor. It's the first time that a new Doctor burns his previous incarnation right after regenerating. Change, my dear, and not a moment too soon, is a pretty rude way to say goodbye to Peter Davison. It's a good thing his Doctor got to meet up with the 10th Doctor for a few seconds as a nicer send-off. The Daleks are the Doctor's most feared and most persistent villains, so it isn't all that surprising that the Time Lords give the 4th Doctor the mission to stop the Daleks from ever existing. The Doctor travels to Skaro to witness the evil Davros creating his most feared enemy. He then holds in his hands the fate of their entire race and must decide if causing temporal genocide is the ethical decision. It's one of the greatest moments in the entire series. If you could stop the greatest evil in the universe from ever existing, would you? This moment is usually what classic Who fans cite as to why Tom Baker is the very best Doctor. The Doctor's decision to allow the Daleks to exist likely haunts him for the rest of his lives, especially when the Time Lords and the Daleks engage in the devastating Time War a few centuries later. Still, the Doctor is never one to give up hope. Maybe him saving the Daleks will save the universe at some point in the future. If not, then every incarnation may have to contend with the fact that they may have made the wrong choice. Though it's not like that's the only time it ever happens. There has never been a day that has required more of the Doctor than the appropriately named Day of the Doctor. The Doctor has to save Queen Elizabeth I, stop a Zygon invasion, stop the Time War, and save Gallifrey. That kind of job's too much for any one doctor. It actually requires all 13 currently available doctors to work together, including John Hurt's War Doctor, because Christopher Eccleston just wouldn't come back even for the 50th anniversary. This is a big event for old school fans of the series, but also for newer ones. We got to see both David Tennant and Matt Smith team up to star in an episode jam-packed with action. While they did manage to save the galaxy, it was kinda sad they couldn't manage to open a door. Still, there's no denying that scene where the Doctors assemble into a giant Time Lord Avengers is worth a 50-year wait. While Blink may not be the most action-packed or eventful episode of the series, it does feature its best mission. The Doctor is taken off the board off-screen before the episode even begins. In fact, this adventure isn't really the Doctor's, but actually a new character named Sally Sparrows. The Carey Mulligan character gets involved in a mystery involving these moving statues known as Weeping Angels. While the 10th Doctor isn't in much of the show, it is one of his most impressive feats. With very little resources, the Doctor is able to construct a plan to outwit the Weeping Angels from the past. Playing chess in person is one thing, but playing chess a few decades in the past through a different person is an entirely another one. It's one of the most subtly brilliant plans the Doctor has ever concocted, and is a perfect showing of his ethos. By trusting in a complete stranger and his own wits, he manages to defeat a terrifying enemy without even being there. That's impressive no matter what Doctor you love. There you have it, all the craziest missions the Doctor has ever gone on. Which one's your favorite? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more from The Binger.